Okay, I thought I better show the results before I show you how I do this, because I keep explaining to guys how I do it and everybody's going, they don't understand. This is the Feather River Canyon side of my 10-foot module. That's all granite work. In a minute here, it'll jump to the next scene. Here's a shot of my equipment. A Badger 105 Patriot double action airbrush. It has a Grex regulator just under it. And then I've got a Grex double action airbrush as well, which is new and I haven't quite started using it yet. I only used it for drying paint today. Believe it or not, those two castings are from the same mold. One has white gesso put on it, and the other one has black gesso. In a minute, I'll start the process on the black gesso. Okay, now I start the process. And what I do is I take what's called titanium white. I fog it from a distance. Try not to go down into any cracks.
What kind of air pressure are you using?
Double action takes about 15 pounds. I actually set 40 pounds on my compressor, and right at the bottom of the airbrush, there's a little air regulator for pressure, so I can adjust.
Is this acrylic tube paint?
This acrylic paint is called High Flow by Golden. It actually does not need to be thin to be run out of an airbrush, and they consider it an ink, not a paint. The pigment is just finer. This is titanium white, Golden paints, and it's part of their High Flow acrylic series.
Oh, thank
really
you.
Considered an ink instead of a paint. I just go slowly. Just trying to cover the top surfaces only. Just get it whiter and whiter. Since I'm so far away, it's hitting like droplets. What I'm doing today is a granite scene, more of a California rock work. I'll move closer for certain areas. Spraying down only.
I think that's enough. Now I clean out the airbrush.
Dave, while you're cleaning your brush there, I notice you're not using a spray booth. Is it because this is acrylic, you don't have to worry about overspray?
This is acrylic. It's you can get some overspray, but it's not toxic.
Now I load up my second color, which is a neutral gray.
Besides, while I'm cleaning the airbrush, that paint is drying. It dries quickly.
Oh, thank you.
And we start again.
Now I'm putting on what you consider the base color for the rock.
This goes rather quickly. And that's it for that.
How do you know that that's enough for that color? Okay.
Well, the old thing is, if you don't like it, you can always repaint and start over.
Got it.
So you just have to pick a point where you think it's enough.
For cleaning the airbrush with the acrylics, I don't need to strip it down and take it all apart. I just use a airbrush cleaner, rinse it a couple times. Every once in a while I have to swab out the bowl, and it's ready for the next color.
There's another product Badger uses. You put on the
Third
needle,
color
which
is
keeps
a
the
shading
acrylic from
gray.
bonding to
And
it.
it's a little more translucent. And you just hit certain spots with it. Go back into the shadow areas.
I have the impression that you got the garage door open.
Yeah, I forgot to close it. I'm
It's
actually
just
right
a little
outside the garage.
So that's the reason why you don't need a paint booth.
I've painted inside with this.
Okay.
The reason you don't need a paint booth is it's not toxic. It's acrylic. It's all water-based.
That's pretty good right there. These acrylics dry in 5 to 10 minutes. And you can actually put wet acrylic on wet acrylic. It'll blend just a bit. I started playing around with Ultric fluid acrylics, which you had to thin down to use an airbrush, but it turned out very nice matte finish. And the reason I do this, I don't have the patience to sit there and try to put on wash after wash after wash. I add a little bit of green to that, and this one's pretty well done. Oh, I do have to come back and hit a little highlights with it. I'll do that in a little bit. Back for highlighting.
I'm using the titanium white for highlights.
Bit too much.
That does happen.
What I try to do is a real dry brush technique. A little bit of paint on the brush, brush it out, and use what's left to just hit tips. So sometimes if you get a little too much, go back with the shading gray and just take it out. And that's it for that.
That's really something, Dave. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anybody have any other questions about it?
Dave, what were you using for that shading gray?
It's another color from the Golden High Flow acrylics. It is called a shading
Oh,
gray.
Okay.
It's a darker gray and it has more, they have a product which is kind of an extender. It's basically the clear acrylic base. So it becomes more translucent. They
And
do
it-
the same thing with the red oxide to make a translucent red oxide.
And they're already thinned for airbrushing, right?
They thin perfectly for an airbrush.
Huh. I'll have to, where do you find those?
I pick them up at Dick Blick's.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I've gotten stuff from him. Thanks.
Yeah, Golden. They're in the more better paints now. Is it art? Paint stores for artists.
It's a
But look for
beautiful job. Beautiful job you do, Dave. It really is. It's really extremely creative.
I'm just lucky. I can see the different shades and I pay attention to the different shades out in nature. So I'm able to duplicate it fairly well.